Hello, my friend. Welcome back to Speak English Daily. I'm Emma, and I'm really glad you're here today. This week started with a phone call. Nothing dramatic, just a call I had to make, a reservation I needed to book, and a small moment that reminded me how much a person can do in English once they stop waiting to feel ready. Today, we're spending a Saturday together. A real summer Saturday. Warm, the city a little slower than the weekdays, the kind of day where things just happen and you follow them without too much planning. There's a phone call that's been sitting on a sticky note for 11 days, a walk through the park with good coffee, a cafe on a street I hadn't been to before, a dinner reservation, a courtyard, candles, and somewhere in the middle of it all, a conversation with one of my students in a hallway with the back of a printed sheet and a pen that I've been thinking about ever since. You'll hear a lot of English today that might already feel familiar, phrases you've heard before, situations you've practiced. That's intentional, because there's a difference between knowing a phrase in a video and recognizing it in a real moment. And today, I want to give you that second thing. By the end of today, you'll have spent a full hour living in English in the middle of a Saturday with all its small plans and changes and conversations. That's the whole plan. Let's begin. Before we start, let me ask you something. Think about the last time you used English to make a plan with someone. Not in a classroom, not in a practice exercise, in a real situation. Booking something, inviting someone, arranging a time, confirming a detail. Maybe it happened easily. Maybe it didn't happen at all, because the phone felt too heavy and texting seemed safer, and then the moment passed. Either way, that feeling is real, and it's incredibly common. Phone calls and social plans are two of the situations English learners find hardest, not because the language is difficult, but because there's no time to pause, no time to edit, and the other person is right there waiting for you to say something. Today, we're going to live through exactly those situations together. A Saturday with a phone call in the morning, a conversation in a hallway, a walk and a coffee, a delivery order by phone, a dinner. And somewhere in the middle of it all, you'll start to notice something. The English you need for a phone call, and the English you need to make weekend plans, and the English you need to order food are all made from the same small pieces, rearranged. The same building blocks, different situation, same start. You already have more than you think you do. Let's warm up. Say these with me, out loud, slowly, in your own voice. I'd like to make a reservation. Could you speak a little slower, please? Can I get a table for two? Friday evening works for me. Let me write that down. What time works for you? Good. Those are the bones of today. You'll hear them all again, in a different order, in different situations, worn in by the story until they feel like yours. Let's start the day. It's Saturday morning, and the apartment is that particular kind of quiet that only happens on weekends. No alarm, no schedule pressing, just the sound of the street below gradually waking up, and the smell of coffee doing its work on the kitchen counter. I'm still in my pajamas. The window is open the amount I leave it open on summer mornings. Enough to let air in, not so much that the noise of the street gets too loud. Outside, someone is sweeping something. A dog is being walked with the particular urgency of a dog who has been waiting since 6 a.m. and would like the record to reflect this. It's the kind of morning that asks very little of you, which is the right kind of morning for a Saturday. I'm sitting at the kitchen table with my second cup, looking at a sticky note I've had on the fridge for 11 days. It says, in my own handwriting, "Call the restaurant. Saturday dinner, Sarah and Carlos." 11 days. The note has been there 11 days because every time I walked past it, I thought, I'll do it later, after I get home, after this meeting, after breakfast, after the coffee settles. The truth is, I don't love making phone calls. Even in English, even after years of teaching it, there's something about a phone call that requires a different kind of readiness. You can't see the person's face. You can't slow down to find your words without the silence feeling awkward. The call is happening at whatever speed the other person sets, and your job is to keep up. I know this feeling well, because my students describe it to me every week. The call that sits undone, not because it's complicated, but because the first moment of it, picking up the phone, dialing, waiting for someone to answer, requires a kind of commitment that's hard to manufacture. You can't ease into a phone call the way you can ease into a text message. The phone call is already happening the moment it connects. So, this morning, I look at the sticky note, I finish my coffee, and I decide that today is the day. I find the restaurant's number, La Terrazza, the Italian place 2 blocks from the park that Sarah has been talking about for a month, the one with the outdoor seating and the vine-covered pergola she described in detail based entirely on a photograph on their website, and I dial. I write nothing down. No notes, no script, no prepared sentences. This is something I do deliberately now when I make calls, as a kind of practice. Just going in with what I have, the way a real call works. It rings twice, 3 times. Then, La Terrazza, good morning. A man's voice. Warm, professional, slightly accented. Good morning. I'd like a reservation for this Saturday evening, please. Of course. How many people? 3. 2 adults and 3 adults. And what time were you thinking? Around 7 o'clock? If that's available. Let me check. A pause. The sound of keys. Yes, we have a table at 7:15. Would that work? 7:15 works perfectly. Thank you. Can I get a name for the reservation? Emma. E-M-M-A. Perfect. We'll see you Saturday at 7:15, Emma. Is there anything else? No, that's everything. Thank you so much. Our pleasure. See you then. I put the phone down. 2 minutes. The whole thing took 2 minutes, and now there's a reservation at La Terrazza on Saturday evening at 7:15, and the sticky note on the fridge can finally come down. I peel it off and drop it in the recycling bin, which feels disproportionately satisfying in the particular way that small completed things do. The note was there for 11 days. The call took 2 minutes. The gap between those 2 numbers is not really about English. It's about the moment of starting. Here's what I notice looking back at that call. I didn't use complicated language. I used the same few pieces I always use. I'd like to, what time works, let me check, can I get? Small phrases strung together into something functional. The call wasn't elegant. It wasn't perfect. At one point, I said 2 adults and then corrected myself because I'd miscounted. It didn't matter. The reservation exists. That's what phone calls actually require, not fluency, Not confidence in the grand sense, just the willingness to keep talking until the information has been exchanged. I pour the last of the coffee into my mug and start thinking about the rest of the day. There's a particular freedom in having done the thing you were avoiding. The energy that was quietly occupied by not doing it is suddenly available again. I notice this every time, with students, with myself, and every time it's slightly surprising how much lighter the morning feels with 2 minutes of phone call behind it instead of in front of it. The day is open. Saturday in July, the light outside is already warm. The next thing I do, because making one plan always leads to making three more, is text Sarah. La Terraza, Saturday, 7:15. I finally called. Are you free? Her reply comes back in under a minute, which is one of my favorite things about Sarah. She never makes you wait. Yes, have been waiting for this. What about Carlos? Carlos is a student of mine who has become, somewhere over the past few months, a kind of regular fixture in our social life. The person who gets added to plans because he always says yes and he always shows up and he always brings something. Usually a container of Colombian hot sauce that goes with everything. I send him a message separately. Saturday night dinner? Italian place near the park, 7:15. You in? Three dots. Then, is this the one with the outdoor seating? I think so. Don't know. I've never been. I've walked past it. Looks good. Yes, I'm in. What time should I arrive? Come at 7. We can wait outside together. Perfect. See you Saturday. I put the phone down and look at the morning. It's barely 9:30. I have a reservation, a confirmed plan, and the whole rest of the day still open in front of me, which feels like the best version of a Saturday, the kind where things are happening later, so the time before them is easy and undemanding. There's something about making plans that changes the quality of the time before them. The hours between now and Saturday evening have a different texture now. Not empty, but oriented. Something to move toward, something to look forward to in that low-key way that doesn't require excitement, just the quiet pleasure of knowing the evening is already arranged. I think about how much of this, texting, confirming, what time works, I'll meet you there, happens in English for anyone living somewhere English is the main language, the language of the background of a life. Nobody teaches it as a unit, it just has to work when you need it in real time. I think about this sometimes. How much of life in English happens in exactly these small administrative moments that nobody romanticizes? Booking things, confirming things, asking what time, suggesting a place, saying yes, or let me check, or actually, could we do 7 instead of 6:30? The connective tissue of a social life. None of it dramatic, all of it necessary. And for so many of my students, for years, this ordinary back and forth felt completely out of reach. Not because they didn't know enough English, because they didn't know the beginning they needed to unlock what they already had. It shouldn't. It really shouldn't, but I understand why it does. I make a third cup of coffee because it's Saturday and I can, and I go to sit by the window with it. The street is doing what Saturday morning streets do at this hour: unhurried, slightly underdressed, full of people who are somewhere between where they've been and where they're going, and in no particular rush about either end of that journey. A man walks past below with a bag from the bakery on the corner, which means he either planned breakfast carefully or is the kind of person who makes impulsive decisions at 9 in the morning and doesn't regret them. Both interpretations are good. Outside, the street is doing its Saturday morning things. A man with two dogs trying to go in different directions, a woman balancing a tray of coffees she's clearly picked up for an office or a group of friends, a teenager on a bicycle who is going slightly too fast and slightly too confidently for someone who looks about 14. The kind of ordinary morning that asks nothing of you except to be in it. The coffee has cooled to the temperature where it's still good, but I should probably stop pretending I'm going to have another cup. I move it to the counter. My phone buzzes again. Sarah, are you doing anything this afternoon? I was thinking a walk coffee before we finalize the week. Yes. What time? 2-ish? I'll meet you at the park entrance, 2 o'clock. Saturday sorted. Or at least more sorted than it was an hour ago. Saturday mornings, I sometimes go into the community center for a couple of hours, not to teach. The Saturday morning class is covered by a colleague, but to catch up on preparation, print materials, do the kind of quiet desk work that's hard to do at home when the window is open and the street is distracting. The community center on a Saturday morning has a different energy than on weekdays, quieter in the hallways, the building doing its job for fewer people, which makes the space feel larger and more generous. The Saturday class was still running when I arrived, the sound of it drifting into the corridor from room 12. When I arrive, Carlos is in the hallway outside the classroom, standing at the notice board with a cup of coffee, reading something. He looks up when he hears the door. Teacher Emma, you're here on Saturday? Sometimes. Are you in the Saturday class? I was. It just finished. He folds his arms and leans against the wall with the ease of someone who has learned that this building is safe. 3 months ago, he stood in doorways. Now he leans against walls. I notice these things. I have a question, actually, from the class. Of course. We move to the two chairs by the window at the end of the hallway, the ones that are always there, always slightly apart, always available. The Saturday morning light comes through the tall windows in long stripes across the floor. We were practicing phone calls today, Carlos says, and I keep forgetting the beginnings of sentences. Like, I know what I want to say, but I forget how to start. Does that make sense? It makes complete sense. It's one of the most common things I hear from students at his level, intermediate enough to know what they want to communicate, not yet automatic enough to produce the sentence under pressure. The content is there. The vehicle for it stalls. Completely. What happened specifically? I wanted to ask the receptionist to repeat something, and I knew the words separately repeat, please, again, but I couldn't put them together fast enough. The call was real, a doctor's office. I just said sorry and hung up. He says it without self-pity, which I've noticed is one of his better qualities. He reports his own failures the way a scientist might, observationally, interested in the cause. Okay, I say. Can I show you something? Please. I take a piece of paper from my bag, the printout I was going to use for next week's prep, and I write on the back of it just 3 words: Could you? That's it, I say, pushing it towards him. Could you? That's the beginning you needed. Could you repeat that? Could you speak a little slower? Could you spell that for me? Could you hold for a moment? He looks at it. It's the same start every time. Every time. You don't need to remember the whole sentence. You need to remember those 2 words, and then the end takes care of itself because you know what you want to say. The beginning is what your brain freezes on because the beginning is the part that commits you to the sentence. He picks up the paper and reads it again. Could you? Then, below it, I'd like to. He reads them the way you read something when you're seeing it differently the second time, not taking it in, but weighing it, checking it against something. It's like a key, he says. Exactly. And there's another one. I take the pen back and write below it, I'd like to. I'd like to make an appointment. I'd like to order a pizza. I'd like to speak to someone about my bill. I'd like to ask a question. Same beginning. The end is just the situation you're in. Carlos stares at the paper for a moment. He's the kind of person who goes quiet when something lands, not checked out, but processing. I let him. So, if I had remembered could you, he says slowly, I would have been able to say the whole thing. Could you repeat that, please? Yes. 3 words that start it, you already had the rest. He folds the piece of paper and puts it in his jacket pocket. Not his bag, his jacket pocket, like something he wants close at hand rather than buried somewhere between a water bottle and a book he's been meaning to return to the library. I recognize this gesture. Students do it sometimes with things that matter: phone numbers, new words, sentences they want to keep near them. It's one of the good signs. The ones who pocket things practice them. The ones who put them in their bags sometimes don't. I'm going to practice this tonight, he says. I'll call the doctor back on Monday. Let me know how it goes. I will. He stands up, finishes his coffee. Thank you, Teacher Emma. Always. He heads down the hallway, the piece of paper in his pocket. 2 phrases, 6 words between them that are going to do a lot of work this week. I think about the doctor's office. Monday. Could you repeat that, please? 3 words at the front, and the rest is just what he wants to say. He'll be fine. Sarah is already at the park entrance when I arrive, which never happens. She's usually 3 minutes late, then apologetic, then immediately in the middle of telling me something. Today, she's standing at the gate with iced coffee in both hands, one of which is for me. You're early, I say. I was in the area, and I found a new place. That cafe on Birch Street that just opened. Oat milk lattes. Very good. She hands me mine. La Terraza. I can't believe you finally called. 11 days that note sat on my fridge. I know you were going to. That's why I called. We walk into the park, the long way, through the rose garden, which is at peak July fullness right now. Every bush crowded with open flowers in that slightly excessive way that July roses have, like they're making up for the whole rest of the year in this one concentrated month. The air smells the way you always want summer to smell, and it sometimes does. Warm and floral and just a little green. The kind of smell that exists only in this exact combination of things and disappears by August when the heat gets too serious. Sarah tells me about her week, a project at work that's in that specific kind of trouble where everyone knows it's in trouble, but nobody is saying so yet. A new colleague who has brought very good biscuits to every meeting so far, which Sarah is choosing to interpret as a good sign. A film she watched on Wednesday that she'd recommend only to people who are comfortable with ambiguous endings. I'm comfortable with ambiguous endings, I say. Then I'll send you the link. We find a bench by the fountain, our bench, in the way that you claim benches in cities without formally claiming them, and sit down. The fountain is doing its summer thing, children at the edge of it, parents at a careful distance, pigeons at a completely unconcerned distance. Tell me something from your week, Sarah says. She says this sometimes, instead of, how was your week? A more specific invitation. I think about Carlos and the piece of paper in his jacket pocket. I had a conversation this morning with one of my students. He'd had a phone call, a real one, to a doctor's office, and it went wrong. He froze. He hung up. I know that feeling, Sarah says, with some feeling. Everyone does. The thing is, I think he had all the words he needed. He just didn't have the beginning, the sentence opener that commits you, that gets you past the first moment. Like, could you? I look at her. Exactly like could you? Because once you've started the sentence, you have to finish it. She takes a long sip of her coffee. And the finishing is the easier part. You know what you want to say. It's the getting into the sentence that's hard. Sarah has never studied linguistics. She's never learned a second language as an adult, but she understands this immediately from some general principle about how commitment works in speech. Once you've started, you're committed. The beginning is the threshold. That's exactly it. I showed him too. Could you? I'd like to. He put the paper in his jacket pocket. That's a good story, Sarah says. He's going to call the doctor on Monday. I believe this. Not because his English is perfect. It isn't. Yet. But because he has the beginning of a sentence now. And the beginning is all you need to get through the moment of commitment. After that, the rest is just what you want to say. And it'll work. It'll work. We sit for a while after that, in the comfortable way of people who have known each other long enough that silence isn't awkward, it's just rest. The fountain does its seasonal thing. A pigeon considers the edge of the water and decides against it. Two children who were arguing earlier have moved on to cooperating on something involving a stick and a puddle, which seems like progress. The iced coffee is very good. The afternoon is unhurried. After a while, Sarah says, I looked up La Terrazza. The menu is online. And there's a pasta with truffle and cream that I've been thinking about since I saw it, which was Tuesday. You found this restaurant 2 days ago. I found the menu 2 days ago. Completely different relationship. After a while, Sarah says, I looked up La Terrazza. The menu is online. And there's a pasta with truffle and cream that I've been thinking about since I saw it, which was Tuesday. You found this restaurant 2 days ago. I found the menu 2 days ago. Completely different relationship. We walk the rest of the park loop and then drift toward Birch Street, where the new cafe is small and warm and has the particular energy of a place that is still figuring out what it is and is excited about the figuring. The menu is handwritten on a chalkboard. The tables are mismatched. The person behind the counter seems personally invested in whether you enjoy your order. This is a good place, Sarah declares about 40 seconds after walking in. We stay longer than we mean to. An extra coffee, a shared piece of cake, the conversation wandering the way afternoon conversations do when there's nowhere else to be and the light outside is doing something nice. By the time I head home, the afternoon has gone gold the way July afternoons do, the light getting richer and longer, every surface finding its best angle. The Saturday is half over and feels full already. The productive kind of full, not the exhausted kind. The kind that comes from spending time rather than spending energy. I have a dinner to get ready for. I have a reservation I made this morning. I have two iced coffees and a piece of cake and a conversation about sentence starters already sitting in my day, which is more than most Saturdays offer. Back home, I have a few hours before dinner, which I spend in the easy, slightly aimless way of a Saturday afternoon. I water the basil on the windowsill, which is showing signs of actual survival this time, possibly because I finally found a window with the right kind of light. I read 40 pages of the book that's been on my nightstand since April, which is a good book. I like it. I just never seem to have the right 20 minutes for it on weekdays. I change my mind 3 times about what to wear, settle on something, and then change it once more because the evening might be cooler in the courtyard. At 6, I realize I haven't eaten since the cafe, and I'm going to be hungry and impatient at the restaurant if I don't have something now. I open my delivery app. The logic of ordering food before going to a restaurant is something I refuse to examine too carefully. I find a Thai place that does small portions, specifically the kind of thing that is a snack by any reasonable definition, and I call. Not the app, the actual phone number listed on their page, because the app has been adding a service fee that I find personally offensive. Golden Lotus, can I help you? Hi, I'd like to order for delivery, please. Of course. What would you like? Could I get the spring rolls, the vegetable ones, and one order of the sauté, please? Spring rolls, vegetable, and sauté. And the address? I give my address. She reads it back to confirm, the way good phone operators do, not because they doubt you, but because it closes the loop, makes the information solid. What's the delivery time? I asked. About 30 minutes. Perfect. Can I pay when it arrives? Yes. Cash or card? Card is great. Thank you so much. I put the phone down and noticed something. The small, quiet thing that sometimes happens when you've been thinking about language all day and then accidentally use it without thinking about it. I'd like to order. Could I get? What's the delivery time? Can I pay when it arrives? Every phrase I used in that call, I've heard before, in a different call about a different thing. The phone call this morning to La Terraza, the conversation I had with Carlos about sentence starters, the phrases from day 3 that I was turning over in my head while I walked the park loop with Sarah. All of it is made from the same small pieces. Could I? I'd like to. Can I? What's the? Beginnings. That's all they are. Beginnings that the ending takes care of once you've committed to the start. The beginning is the hard part, the moment of commitment. Once you're 2 words in, the rest of the sentence knows where it's going. I think about the doctor's office Monday. Carlos saying, "Could you?" to a receptionist who will repeat the information without drama, because that is a completely normal thing to ask for. And the call will work and he will hang up, having done what he needed to do. I think Carlos would appreciate this observation. I save it for Monday. There's something satisfying about that. Noticing something in your own life that's useful for someone else, filing it away, waiting for the right moment to share it. Teaching that way, from the real, rather than from the prepared. The delivery arrives right on time, spring rolls and sauté, and the particular satisfaction of eating good food at the kitchen table while getting ready for a dinner that is still 2 hours away. The logic holds up under no scrutiny. I do it anyway. The food arrives in 28 minutes, slightly ahead of schedule, which feels like a gift. And I eat it at the kitchen table while looking out the window at the early evening street, which is doing what early evening streets do in summer. People moving between wherever they've been and wherever they're going, the light flattering to everyone, the pace a little slower than the weekday pace. I think about the restaurant later. I think about Sarah and the truffle pasta she's been considering since Tuesday. I think about Carlos with the piece of paper in his pocket and the doctor's office on Monday, and the two words that are going to get him through the first sentence. I get ready slowly, which is the right way to get ready when you have time. Carlos is waiting outside the restaurant when I arrive, which makes me realize I've never seen him out of the context of the community center before. He looks different in the evening, in a dark jacket, holding his phone, watching the street with the alert curiosity of someone who is still in the phase of finding cities interesting. Teacher Emma. Just Emma is fine outside the classroom. Sorry, Emma. He grins. It's hard. You are very much Teacher Emma to me. I'll take it as a compliment. Sarah arrives 2 minutes later, exactly 2 minutes late, and immediately declares the restaurant beautiful before we've gone inside, based entirely on the string lights along the front and the sound of conversation coming from the courtyard. Inside, the host checks the reservation with the calm efficiency of someone who has done this thousands of times. I give my name, Emma, 7:15? Yes, follow me. We are led through the main room. Warm light, the gentle hum of a restaurant comfortably full, the air carrying garlic and herbs from the kitchen, to a table near the window looking onto a small interior courtyard with tables set under a vine-covered pergola. Outside or inside? The host asks. Sarah points outside before I finish deciding. Outdoors, she says, with conviction. Then, turning to us, sorry, was that a group decision? It was a good decision, Carlos says. The courtyard is perfect, warm enough that the evening air is pleasant, sheltered enough that it feels like its own world. Candles in small glass holders on each table, the vine overhead thick with summer leaves, a few small white flowers opening in clusters. We settle in. The waiter comes quickly, young, friendly, the kind of efficient warmth that good restaurant staff make look effortless. Good evening. Can I start you with something to drink? Could I get the sparkling water, please? I say. Still for me, Sarah says. Carlos looks at the drink menu, then, I'd like to try the house red. A glass, please. The waiter nods and goes. Carlos looks slightly pleased with himself. I'd like to, he says, quietly, like he's noting something. You heard yourself, I say. I did. I didn't plan it. It just came out. He shakes his head slightly in that way of someone who finds language acquisition mildly surprising even when they're the one doing it. You know what's interesting? When I ordered, I wasn't thinking I'd like to. I was thinking about the red wine, but the beginning came automatically. That's what happens when something has been in your pocket long enough. Sarah looks between us with the expression of someone who has arrived at a conversation already in progress. This morning, I tell her, the piece of paper. Oh, the could you thing. I'd like to, Carlos says. And could you? Two phrases. I wrote them on a card when I got home this morning, and I've been looking at them all day. And you just used one at a restaurant without thinking about it. Without thinking about it. The wine arrives, the water arrives. We open the menus. The menu at La Terraza is written in Italian with English descriptions below, which is either very authentic or very considerate, depending on how you look at it. Sarah goes directly to the pasta section, which I suspected she would. Carlos reads everything carefully, the way he does, turning each option over before moving to the next. The waiter returns. Are you ready to order? I'd like the pappardelle with truffle cream, Sarah says with the decisive energy of someone who made this decision on Tuesday. And for you? The waiter turns to Carlos. I'd like the bronzino, please. Could I get the vegetables on the side instead of mixed in? Of course. And for you? I'd like the risotto. And could I ask, is the Parmesan in it dairy? I have a friend who's lactose intolerant, and I want to know for the future. Yes, it has dairy Parmesan, but we can make it without on request. Good to know. Thank you. The waiter leaves. Carlos is quiet for a moment. Could I get the vegetables on the side? He says to himself, reviewing it. Could I ask? Two different endings, I say. Same beginning. Sarah cuts in. Are you two going to analyze every sentence tonight? Because I'm very happy with my Tuesday decision, and I just want to eat pasta and look at the courtyard. We both laugh. Yes, Carlos says. Sorry, Sarah. The evening unfolds the way good evenings do. Food that is worth the waiting, conversation that covers things in no particular order. Carlos's coworker who keeps mixing up I want and I need in ways that occasionally cause problems for everyone involved. The truffle pasta, which Sarah eats with focused appreciation of someone who has been thinking about it since Tuesday and finds it does not disappoint. A film she is firmly recommending but refusing to describe in any detail because she finds narrative summary reductive, which is a position everyone at the table disagrees with but cannot adequately argue against. A long side discussion about whether outdoor seating is always better in summer, which we resolve decisively in favor of yes, and then a light breeze comes through the courtyard, and everyone briefly reconsiders and then reaffirms the original position because the alternative is going inside, and we are not ready for that. Carlos orders a second glass of the house red, which he describes as quite good for a house red, the kind of qualified praise that means he enjoyed it very much. Sarah discovers a dessert involving hazelnuts and espresso that she had not anticipated and orders it without consulting anyone, which is exactly the right approach. The courtyard settles into itself as the night comes in properly. The candles more necessary now, the vine overhead dark against the sky, the restaurant still humming but quieter. The particular piece of a dinner that has passed the eating stage and entered the sitting stage, where nobody is looking at the time because nobody wants it to be time to leave. When the bill comes, Carlos reaches for it with the instinct of someone who grew up in a culture where this is what you do. Could we split it? Sarah says gently. Of course, he says. And then, could we? Different ending, same beginning. You can't stop, I say. I don't think I can. Good. That's what it's supposed to feel like. We say goodbye outside the restaurant. Sarah going left toward the subway, Carlos going right toward the bus, me going straight for 6 blocks because I live close enough to walk, and the evening is warm and I have no reason to hurry. The street after a good dinner has a particular quality, not the same as the street before dinner. Before, there's anticipation. After, there's satisfaction, and the body is content, and the mind is slightly looser, and the city looks like it's agreeing with you. I walk slowly, because there's no reason not to, and the evening is worth walking slowly through. The restaurants on the first few blocks are full, people at outdoor tables, the sound of cutlery and conversation, the occasional burst of laughter from somewhere inside. A group of teenagers goes past me at twice my pace, going somewhere with the urgency that teenagers always seem to have, regardless of where they're actually going. The evening is that particular shade of blue that summer evenings get, when the sun has been down for a while, but the sky hasn't quite committed to dark, not quite night, not quite dusk, a color that doesn't have a proper name in English, but that everyone recognizes because you see it every summer and feel something when you do. Some combination of contentment and something that wants more of this, more evenings like this one. I think about Carlos at the restaurant table, quietly noting the phrases as they came out of him. Could I get? I'd like to. Could we? The same two words before different endings, doing different jobs. Asking for something, ordering something, requesting something, suggesting something. I think about the piece of paper in his jacket pocket, creased now, probably, pulled out once or twice today to look at, pocketed again. 6 words between them, doing the work of 100 sentences. Which will happen. That's the strange and reliable thing about language, the way deliberate becomes automatic, becomes invisible. You practice a thing and it feels effortful and strange, and then one day you use it without planning to, and you notice only afterward that it came out already formed, and after that you don't notice at all. It's just part of the way you speak, like a road you've driven so many times you could do it in the dark. Carlos will get there. He's already part way there. Tonight proved it. I'd like to, at a restaurant, without trying to. The beginning appearing on its own, which is exactly what beginnings are supposed to do once you've carried them long enough. I'd like to. Could you? He'll stop noticing soon enough. The park is still open. It's barely 10, and I cut through it on the way home. The fountain is off for the night, but the lights are on, and a few people are still on the benches, and somewhere in the middle of the park, a small group of teenagers is having what sounds like a very important conversation about something, their voices carrying in that way teenage voices do in open spaces. I stop for a moment at our bench, mine and Sarah's from this afternoon, and sit down. Not for long, just for a minute. I think about the day, the sticky note, the phone call, the 2 minutes it took to make a reservation that sat on my fridge for 11 days, Carlos in the hallway with his coffee, the piece of paper in his jacket pocket, Sarah arriving early with 2 iced coffees, the park walk and the new cafe and the long afternoon, the delivery call and noticing the phrases in my own sentences, getting ready slowly, the restaurant and the courtyard and the candles, and Carlos catching himself mid-sentence. A complete Saturday. A full one. The kind that leaves you feeling like the day was the right length. I get up from the bench and walk the rest of the way home, the quiet evening doing its thing around me, the city that is learning to feel like mine. Back at the apartment, I do the small end-of-day things. Shoes off, jacket on the hook, kettle on for tea. The basil on the windowsill is fine, possibly slightly better than fine, which I choose to take as a sign that I'm improving at this. The book is still on the nightstand, waiting with the patience of a book that knows you're going to come back to it. The fridge has no sticky notes on it, which still feels good, still feels like something worth noticing. I make chamomile tea, the kind that smells like the end of a good day, and sit at the kitchen table with it, not doing anything in particular. Sometimes the right thing to do at the end of a Saturday is to sit with tea and let the day settle. My phone has a text from Carlos. I make chamomile tea, the kind that smells like the end of a good day, and sit at the kitchen table with it, not doing anything in particular. Sometimes the right thing to do at the end of a Saturday is exactly that. Sit still and let the day settle into memory while it's still fresh. The basil on the windowsill is definitely still alive, possibly flourishing. I note this with the quiet satisfaction of someone who has killed a lot of basil and knows what surviving looks like. I type back, I noticed too. You did well. Let me know how Monday goes. He sends back a thumbs up almost immediately, which is the right response. Complete, unambiguous, no excess. I've noticed that the students who are good at conversation tend to respond the way he just did. Give exactly what the situation needs, nothing more, nothing less. Carlos has that instinct. It was there from his first week. It's why his English is improving faster than his formal level might suggest. And then, after a moment, I add, and next time you use I'd like to without thinking, notice that. That's the moment it belongs to you. He sends back a single thumbs up, which is exactly the right response. I finish my tea and rinse the mug and set it in the drying rack. The apartment is quiet now in the particular way it's quiet at the end of a full day. Not empty, but done, settled. The windows are still open, and the evening air comes through, carrying whatever the city carries at this hour. Somewhere, something cooking, a door closing with the finality of someone home for the night. The distant sound of the park, still breathing. I think one last time about could you and I'd like to. Those small keys, those 6 words between them, doing their quiet work in the pocket of a jacket somewhere on the other side of the city. That is enough for a Saturday. Before we finish, let's practice together. These are the phrases that carried today's story. You heard them many times. Now say them out loud with me. Today had 2 building blocks, 2 beginnings that unlocked dozens of sentences. The first one, I'd like to. Say it with me. I'd like to make a reservation. I'd like to order for delivery. I'd like to order the risotto, please. I'd like to ask a question. I'd like to speak to someone about my appointment. I'd like to change my order. I'd like to pay the bill, please. Same beginning, different endings, different situation, one chunk. The second one, could you? Could you repeat that, please? Could you speak a little slower? Could you spell that for me? Could you hold for a moment? Could you put the vegetables on the side? Could you bring the bill when you're ready? Could we split this between 3 of us? Same beginning, endless endings. Every situation in today's story, the phone call, the restaurant, the delivery order, was handled with these 2 starts. And 2 more, shorter but just as useful. Can I get a table for 2? Can I pay when it arrives? Can I call you back later? What time works for you? Friday evening works for me. Let me write that down. These aren't phrases to memorize. They're starting points, the beginning of a sentence that gets you past the first moment of commitment. And once you're past that moment, the rest is just what you want to say. You already know what you want to say. You always did. Write these 2 down if you want to. Could you? I'd like to. Put them somewhere close, in your pocket, on your phone, on a sticky note on your fridge. And when you use one today or tomorrow or this week without thinking about it, notice that. That's the moment it belongs to you. Your turn now. Think about this week. Is there a phone call you've been putting off? A reservation you need to make? A question you haven't asked yet because starting the sentence felt hard? Use the beginnings. Start here, out loud, in your own voice. I'd like to. Finish that sentence with something real, something you actually need to say this week. Good. Now, could you? Something you might need to ask someone, a receptionist, a waiter, a colleague, a friend. Whatever you said, that was real English, not practiced English. Your English. And if there's a phone call sitting on your metaphorical fridge right now, take the note down. Make the call. It'll take 2 minutes, and the rest of the day will feel lighter for it. Today, we spent a Saturday together. We made a phone call that had been sitting undone for 11 days. We texted friends to make plans. We walked through a park and had a long afternoon with good coffee. We ordered delivery by phone and noticed the phrases coming out already formed. We ate dinner in a courtyard with candles and a vine overhead and watched someone use a building block he'd learned that morning without thinking about it. 2 phrases, 6 words between them. I'd like to. Could you? That's what today was built from, and those 2 phrases will get you through more situations than you might think, in more places than just a restaurant or a phone call. Keep them in your pocket. Use them. Notice when they come out on their own. I'll be back next Monday. Same time, a new day, a new hour. Until then, if something needs a phone call, make it. The sticky note doesn't have to stay on the fridge. This is Emma from Speak English Daily. Good evening, wherever you are.